Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We liked our movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the feeling bit by bit. Sweetie and Sweety are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast. Hey, hey.
That's it?
That's it, Davy.
Davy?
If you want to learn to swim, you've got to jump in the water.
Don't forget to feed Bruiser. 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions on a sesame seed bun.
Whoa! This can't be happening. I think I've gotten some stuff out of your head that has nothing to do with navigating this ship.
You sound just like a human.
No! That dumb dog will never learn to catch
Catch a frisbee. You are an inferior species. You dumb dork.
Butt face?
Scuzz bucket.
Hey, well, if you're so perfect, what are you still doing here?
I told you, I blew a fuse when I totaled out that electrical tower. I was checking out some daisies.
Crashed while looking at flowers?
Ha!
Sounds like you're the inferior species.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Sent Us podcast, your favorite podcast where two Sweety sisters talk about their favorite flicks from the 80s and 90s. I'm Sweety.
And I'm Sweety.
And tonight we're doing one that Sweety has been asking me to watch since we started this podcast. And I was like, what the fuck is that? I don't want to watch it. What is it, Sweety? What's the flick?
Okay, guys. I was obsessed with this movie as a small child. It was probably my first movie about time travel, I would say. I probably saw this pre Back to the Future. It is Flight of the Navigator from 1986, the year that Sweet Sweety over here came into this world.
Pretty sure I watched it as a baby. I'm just kidding.
I probably sat you down. I was like, Andre, watch this movie with me, even though you're 2 months old.
No. I really had no recollection of this movie. Like, never remembered it. Like, even the box, the VHS, like the image. I don't remember that. I don't remember who was in it. I didn't know anything. The plot. I thought it was about a kid in a wheelchair. That's why I didn't want to watch it, because I was like, where can this plot go? No offense.
Why do you think from the pictures that you did see, he looked like he was in a wheelchair?
Because he was like in a chair with like his arms like that. So I was like, that doesn't look exciting.
Is one of those Disney original movies, and if you remember from the video store, like back in the day, there were these white video cassette cases and kind of like the puffy ones. Remember the puffy ones?
It's called a clamshell, I think.
Okay, well, clamshell, but I thought that's what are at salad bars that you put salad in.
Clam box. I don't know. It's a vagina.
So yeah, with this like the main photo where it's like him with like the alien like weird guy and like the little creature that he picks up. I don't know what it was. I was obsessed with the movie. It was always on TV. Like I pretty much only watched the Disney Channel as a little kid. They always had this on the Disney Channel, and I thought it was the coolest thing. Guess what, guys? It still is. So happy. I was so terrified. I was going to be like, this is going to be the worst movie ever.
What? No.
Dash my dreams.
I doubt it. The whole time before we watched this, actually this whole week, she's been like, oh, and then there's the part where this happens, and then the part where this happens. And I was like, can you shh? I don't want you to ruin it for me, which she did ruin it, but we'll get to that later. But it was a very sweet movie.
It?
Yes, it was very sweet. I do love a good time travel, sci-fi kind of, alien flick. But yeah, ultimately I enjoyed it.
I'm so happy. It just made my day.
Yay.
Yeah, it's just something about watching these movies when, I probably haven't seen this in at least 20 years at this point, but it just like transfers me back. We always talk about how, and obviously like the point of this podcast being like, when you're that young, that was such like a comfortable time for us, and obviously like the definition of nostalgia, right? So for us, we just had this like great happy little family, and we would watch movies all the time, and it just takes us back to that just like golden age of our lives, right? So obviously watching these, it just like transports me back, much like David is transported back to 1978.
Wow. Well, you ruined it again for everyone. Good work.
You've probably already seen it. You're the only one who hasn't.
Fine, whatever. All right. Well, for anyone that hasn't seen it, and for those that have, enjoy a little something I like to call
The Sweety Synopsis. Yeah.
Sweeties. David Freeman is a 12-year-old boy who has a wonderful family.
And a bowl cut.
He has a father, a mother, and a little annoying brother named Jeff, whom he hates in that big brother hates little brother kind of way. One night, his little brother Jeff is playing, well, actually, not just any night, it's the 4th of July, and his little brother Jeff is playing some fireworks over at a neighbor's house or whatever.
It's 1978.
It's 1978, FYI. So David's father asks him to go get his brother because they don't want him to walk through the woods alone. They live in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, so the woods are like rainforest pretty much. Like what? It's like not like a logistical. It's like basically a rainforest, right?
I mean, he was only 8 years old, but there was like weird like train tracks. I mean, there was a lot of different.
Yeah, it was weird.
It did look like a rainforest. You're right though.
Okay, good. A lot of different obstacles. Yeah, so he goes to collect his brother. Brings his dog Bruiser. Bruiser
What's your name
starts.
for a dog? I mean, that's supposed to be like scrappy. Like you're a bruiser. Does that mean you're like you hit people or something?
Maybe.
What's bruiser mean?
I don't know.
You give bruises.
I think
Good
that's
one.
what you think it means. I'm not sure if that is what it means. We'll look it up. Google. So Bruiser's barking at something. David's like, yo, what that? So he goes over there and he's like, I don't know what it is. Whoa, I'm falling in the ravine. Whoa. And he falls in, smack, lands down, wakes up and is like, whoa, that was weird.
Yeah.
And
Must have
goes
passed
back
out for a second there.
yeah. So he goes back home. So he runs back home, knocks on the door to get back in. It's locked, first of all. So he's like, what? That's weird. So he knocks on the door. This weird old lady comes to the door and is like, hello? Who are you? And David's like, who are you? Where's my mom? She's like, what are you talking about? Like, this is our house. He's like, no. He busts in, sees the house is completely different, goes into his room, finds a weird old man in a red silk robe.
Hugh Hefner style robe,
Still-
smoking a pipe
Still
in his library.
confused about that scene. So they call the cops and they find out that he has been missing for 8 years. So it is now 1986 and David is still 12 years old. Yeah. So they bring him to his family, and his family have all aged, including his brother Jeff, who's now like a 16-year-old stud muffin.
Yeah, I wrote down little brother Jeff, kind of cute.
Yeah, super cute, super cute. So David's very upset, as you would be if this happened to you.
That
this
is fucked
very
up.
terrifying. Yeah,
And he doesn't know what has happened at this point. He has no memory.
Neither do we.
Everyone's like, yeah, we don't know either. Like, what happened to David? You don't know anything about anything. So obviously they take him to the hospital. They run tests. They hook him up with the machines with all these little things on his head. Meanwhile, as this is going on, there has been a spaceship sighting in Fort Lauderdale, and NASA is involved. And the spaceship is kind of just idling, so they bring it to the NASA center or whatever and put it in this big airplane hangar. So David is getting like psychoanalyzed, and his brain waves come up with that spaceship like drawn out, like the computer prints out like the image of the spaceship. So they put 2 and 2 together, and NASA's like, David, like, we need to talk to you about this spaceship. Like, tell us what you know. So he goes to NASA, and they're like, we're only going to keep you for 48 hours. So he's like, okay, fine. Like, that's cool. Shows up at NASA. They give him a pretty cool room with one of those, what is that called? The mirrors, two-way mirror. So there's like people looking at him on side at the other side, like
and
security
why is it
people.
called a two-way mirror if you can only see the mirror? Is that a one-way?
Yeah.
No, because in one mirror you're looking at yourself.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And then two-way. Okay. Whew, okay.
You got it.
Proceed.
So there's all these, like, they gave him all these cool toys and, like, let him eat whatever he wants, but he can't leave the room. Downside. So they hook him up to even more, like, little things, and they find all this weird stuff in his brain. So that his brain is, like, answering him without him even having to say anything. So they figure out that, like, there's basically, like, alien intelligence in his brain connected to that spaceship that they found. Mm-hmm. David is slowly realizing, too, like, something is up. And meanwhile, he's been getting, like, hearing weird voices, and they got even more pronounced once he, like, got closer to the spaceship. So it's kind of like garbled and weird, except one night. So like after they do the brain dump and they find like all this information in them, including these crazy star maps that show this planet called Phalon, which is like off. They don't even nothing
Uncharted.
and uncharted territories in terms of like space. And they said it's 2.2
solar
light
years.
So is that a light year? Is
think
that what
so.
a light year is?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So that kind of now you're putting 2 and 2 together. Like, okay, this is why he's been gone for that long, because to get to that planet, it would have taken like 8 years would have passed to get there and back. I guess like whatever. Anyway, so David like freaks out, runs back to his room, kind of gets all pouty, and is like, "I just want to go home." Realizes they're not going to let him go home because he's just given him like them all this information. Goes to sleep, wakes up, and he's getting called by the spaceship.
He did? What did the spaceship say?
Well, he just woke up, and it was like, and then he just woke up, and he's like, "I'm coming.
Oh.
I'm coming."
And then the male robot, Ralph, R-A-L-F, I forget what it stands for. It's basically a robot, and it delivers like food in the mail. Usually run by Sarah Jessica Parker, but she wasn't aware around at this time. So the robot just comes on its own. He knows what to do. He gets in the male robot, goes out. The male robot's like off-roading on NASA's like airstrip.
The spaceship was making it do that, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I
That's my
guess
theory.
that makes sense. Takes it to the spaceship. At this point, NASA has tried as hard as they can to get inside that spaceship, and they can't get it to open.
So describe the spaceship for everybody.
Well, like you said, it's like a big silver acorn squash.
No.
It's like your classic UFO design.
It's very pretty, though.
Yeah, similar to a lot of like 1950s alien UFO movies, I would say.
What did you call that? Like molten metal. What do you call that? Like I remember I described it as like in Terminator.
It looked like mercury.
Yeah, Mercury. That's it.
Like
that's it.
but yeah, it's cool. So as soon as he touches it, it like the steps form, and then it opens, so he can get in, and it's like very trippy on the inside. There's lots of like circuitry things happening. Cool. It looks cool. It looks cool.
Looks really cool.
So he goes in, this like chair rises up from the thing, and then this robotic like red light voice talks to him and is like, "Hello, Navigator," blah, blah, blah. And then he kind of explains what happened, but it kind of went over my head, and like I don't know if I'm gonna be able to explain it very well, but essentially the spaceship like put all of that information into David's head. And then
to see how much they could.
Oh, right,
because
they found out that humans only use 10% of their brains, so they wanted to see what happened if they filled it with all this other stuff. Turns out it leaks, I guess, when you do that, because we're not great life forms. So that was that. They couldn't, usually when they pick up life forms from other planets, they drop them off exactly, they go back in time so that the life form doesn't remember or like know that anything happened. But they couldn't do it this time because we're so... what was the word?
Like
inferior species that it would have decimated us and
Right.
would have died if they brought him back in time. So that's why he is now 8 years advanced and still looks 12. So unfortunately, the spaceship crashed. It also lost all of its star maps.
Star charts.
Star maps to the stars in Hollywood, California. His star charts. So he needs them from David's mind. So they get in the ship. They like leave. The NASA's like, "No, come back. They're very upset. Yeah. The ship leaves. David's like, "Oh, this is fun." So it's kind of like cool. Like, I wonder if they made a ride out of the, like how that was.
Have.
Like, it looked really cool.
I guess that spaceship was on like the Disney lot, like of all like old props and like things for a while. Yeah, that would have been so cool to see.
Nice. So David's like, "All right, I'll cut a deal with you. Like, you can do this mind transfer thing and take the star charts out if you bring me back to my family." The computer's like, "Cool, all right, sweet." So they have fun. They like get to bonding, typical alien human bonding
So the alien
montage.
is like this, it's not really like a robot, but he's like not
Central Intelligence, like
Yeah.
like a HAL from
Yeah.
2001:
Yep.
Space Odyssey, like that kind of.
Yeah, so he's like
thing.
a personality, but he is very like robotic. Doesn't understand like really any of the human like words and
Or
colloquialisms
emotions,
or emotions and stuff. But then once David gives him the brain dump of all the star charts, he has some of David's like brain in him, so he becomes much more human and gets like a little bit more of a personality. So he's voiced by Paul Rubens, very cool. And it's basically Pee Wee as a robot once the movie gets going. And I remember as a little kid, I thought the part when they're in the spaceship was like hilarious to me. I thought that guy was so funny. I don't know if, I must have known who Pee Wee Herman was by that point, but didn't know he ever did this voice like literally until today.
Yeah.
So they have this like little adventure. They kind of go into space like a little bit. They go underwater. They go to Tokyo by accident, just like kind of hovering. They don't like go to these places. And then he's just like, I want to go home. So then they're like navigating home. So it's like they go across the U.S., just kind of do like flyover kind of stuff.
To get
so you
back
see
home.
San Francisco and like the plains and Texas and Florida. So it's kind of like a little mini tour of like the U.S. So David gets back home. The NASA guys are there waiting for him. And he calls his brother, the house, and his brother picks up and he's like, Jeff, like, you're gonna have to like give me a signal because I don't know where the new house is, because he just has never lived there. Awesome Jeff is like, yeah, I got this. Hot Jeff runs and finds fireworks, puts them on top of the house and explodes them so David knows where to go. But what happens?
So they see the fireworks, they go there, they land, then David sees all the NASA people, sees his family, but then thinks, this is really unfortunate because I don't belong here anymore. Like, I missed out on 8 years of my life, and if I stay here, that NASA's just going to keep doing tests on me, and I'm not going to have a normal life. She's like, please take me back. So he's named this computer weird alien thing Max, by the way. So he says, Max, please take me back. And just like time travel and take me back to like where we started in 1978. Like, I don't care if I die. Like, it's worth the risk. So they do it, and it works. So then he wakes up back where he started, like in the ravine, and he's like, did it work? And then he goes back, and he sees his family in the boat waiting for him, and they're like, come on, David, where have you been? And he's like, I love everybody. He's like, I love you, Mom. I love you, Jeff. It's a really sweet moment. And that's it.
And so when he was on the ship, he had found also like Max had taken him as like the sample from Earth, but Max went to all these other planets and all different galaxies and took also other like life form samples. So they're all like weird looking creatures, look like out of Star Wars, like wicked weird looking. And he's going to return all of them, but this one little guy, his planet was destroyed by a comet. So he's an orphan now. And he has no one to go back to. So David like puts him in his backpack and he becomes like his little buddy and he forgets about it. But then when he goes back back to 1978, the little guy is still in there. So then he has this little secret pet that no one's going to know about except him and Jeff. But Jeff sees it. He's like, shh, don't tell anybody about my cool little
But what
critter.
about Bruiser?
He'll still have Bruiser.
Bruiser's going to feel sad. He's not the number one pet anymore.
Okay. It's okay. So cute though.
Yeah,
but
really sweet.
really ends up being like such a sweet movie. Real interesting sci-fi. Like if you like think about that kind of sort of dimension and time travel kind of stuff, and obviously like aliens and whatever. But also like I said at the end of this, I'm like, every kid should lose 8 years of their life and like realize what that's like. Everyone should have an alternate 1985, like a la Marty McFly.
Yeah.
You know, really makes you appreciate your life.
Yeah, it's true.
Like what if you lost? Okay, let's say what are like minus 8 years for you? So you're 30, so 22.
Wait, so
what if like you were 22 and then you jump to where you are right now?
I'd be fine with that. I'd be like,
would?
yay, I'm getting money now. Like, that's not a good example because that's not like the greatest time of your life.
So you think like kid,
yeah.
the
I
kid
think when you're like,
yeah.
if you miss out on your entire childhood, that's something to be sad about. But if you're like, oh, I just graduated college, I'm not making any money, and then you transfer to now when I do make money, then things are okay.
I wrote down like really freaky if you're 12 years old and you totally have no clue about anything.
Well, also, and I said really freaky if you have to go from the 70s to the 80s without an explanation or being able to ease into it. Yeah. Because the 80s was so fucking weird. Like, and I just reminded, watching this, there's a scene where he's in the NASA room. He puts on the TV and there's music videos playing, which he's never seen before. And it's this weird,
what's a music video?
So what was that music video that he was watching?
I don't know. I saw I saw the artists that they had for that one and then something else. I didn't recognize them. They weren't
well, as in true 80s music video fashion, it was fucking weird. So I can only imagine what he was thinking. And like the clothes are so much weirder. People have like purple hair. They wear one earring. Like shit is weird.
5 kinds of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, like wow.
Different president.
Yeah, forget about it.
But late 70s like were almost 80s. But 86 was, I mean, started to get like kind of normal out maybe. I don't know what I'm basing that on. I was like 3 years old. Like,
well,
I totally know.
Well, I think like 70s, like late 70s into like mid 80s was like all kind of the same thing. But then like mid 80s is when things got really crazy.
In our 1980, what was that, 5, the Florida video that we have, like David's outfit was like what Dad had. Remember, with like the striped shirts and the socks that you would like wear
That
pulled
was the
up.
Flight of the Navigator.
Yes, and he looked kind of like that little kid.
Oh my God. Wait, Jeff or David?
No, David.
No, he didn't.
With like the like bowl cut dark hair.
Maybe.
Yeah, but yeah, wild. 1978, 1986 seemed pretty cool to me though.
I really enjoyed the beginning part of this movie and how it was very Twilight Zone-esque in that I just loved that when he woke up, it was just a split second later and he goes back to his house and it was totally different. Like, that's really freaky. I enjoyed that. I enjoyed that part a lot.
I can't imagine that. Like, that would be so messed up when you're just like, oh, like, well, I must fell asleep for a second there and go back and like nothing is what it was like a second ago. I can't believe he wasn't more fucked up. I mean, I know he was like crying a lot and like he sees his parents and he's like freak. He goes, what happened to you?
Oh yeah, way to make him feel good, David.
Like, I mean, 8 years isn't that long.
I know. I don't think they would have aged that dramatically.
I think they should have
went
done
a little heavy
little
on
bit,
the makeup.
Yeah, a little bit longer. The mom just like wasn't as polished or something. And the dad had more gray, but also they were probably like stressed out because they lost a kid. David was declared legally dead. That's scary.
Crazy. I'm reminded of when my cat went missing for a day and I was like a wreck. So I can only imagine what 8 years was like.
It's like when people have kids who are abducted, like you don't know if they're still out there. Like, did you hear the woman, this was like a couple months ago, her daughter was kidnapped from a hospital. So as a newborn. And they finally found her 18 years later.
In the 80s when all that was happening?
No, so it would have been, she's 18 now.
So what year did she go missing?
So like 2000, 1999. It's 2017.
I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah, we're that old.
Okay, because I remember in the 80s, like there's
that
a
was a
string
thing.
of that
Yeah.
because that's why. And then mom like insisted that I sleep in the room with her because she didn't want me to get
But
stolen.
that's what happened. So then this girl, and it was like kind of freaky because she was still in the same city. It's not like the woman like took her very far, but she grew up like completely different lifestyle. But like so the mom like every year celebrated her birthday and was like, I know she's still out there. Like I can feel it. I know she's not dead. And that's the thing with abductions and stuff like that. Like, you don't know. If you don't have a body, like, yeah, they could still be out there, especially if they're like little kids. Or they're not and they're dead, which is, awful. But I just can't, I can't imagine like what that family went through and how freaky that must have been to see, like, oh, here's your son David. And he looks exactly the same. That's
and
it's
and it's so crazy when he meets his little brother who's now like his older brother basically, and he's like so cool and like old looking. So yeah, that was really trippy.
It's kind of like a greaser. Is that like
he's not a greaser.
Greaser style?
No, he was wearing like
shirts?
cool 80s clothes.
Was that cool?
He had
80s
like
clothes?
cool lingo. Yeah,
Whatever. I love
You're
Jeff.
obsessed with greasers.
I'm sorry, I keep seeing these the greaser style in like all these movies with the T-bird jacket and like the pop collar shirt, not like preppy pop collar, but like anyway. And this guy, the guy who directed this movie, also directed Grease the musical. Coincidence?
Yeah, probably not.
I think not.
Probably not. So, I mean, this is your movie, so you can lead. You can lead the combo.
All right. So my initial first thought about this movie, and like the first thing I remembered was Sarah Jessica Parker and her purple hair. I thought Sarah Jessica Parker was the coolest girl in here. I wanted to be her so bad when I saw this as a little kid. So Sarah Jessica Parker plays this woman, Carolyn, who works at NASA, and she like runs the little robot that they have that like taking stuff. It's like a male robot. Have you ever seen the movie The Americans? The show, The Americans, and male robot. It's basically like that. So they use it just to like carry stuff.
Kind of a bullshit
guess.
job. Like
Yeah.
she doesn't really have to do anything
I
except
know.
like enter in the numbers of the keypad. Like,
Right. And she puts like food in there. That's
Yeah.
how they bring like his food to him.
why don't you fucking roll it into him? Like, why
or
do you
carry
need? Why do you
it.
need a robot?
Yeah, I don't know. They're just trying to use like robotic technology, I guess. Anyway, so she's like 20. I think she's supposed to be like 20 years old. So I think they're supposed to be like that's supposed to be how David's age at that in 1986. He would have been 20. So it's like it would have been her. They would have been the same age. Anyway, so she's like this cool girl, and she comes in, and she's really nice, and at the beginning of the whole movie, David has this crush on this girl, like I forgot what her name is, Karen or something like that.
Yeah. Who knows what happens to her?
Yeah. So he is kind of just, he's 12, so he's just kind of getting to that, like, I like girls. How do I talk to girls? How do I make them like me kind of a thing? So David's, like, kind of a pussy. Like, in the beginning, like, his brother's always scaring him. His brother's always like, I mean, I hate using that word. You just gave me a look. But he's kind of a wimp. Weird. Okay, he's kind of a wimp. Okay. So, like, when he's walking through the woods in the beginning, like, trying to find his brother Jeff, like, he's kind of freaked out a little. He's spooked. And he's like, okay, girls like brave guys. He's giving himself, like, a pep talk. Remember that? Yeah.
He says that out loud?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah. Huh. So, like, that's kind of his little, like, thing going on in the beginning. So then he meets this Carolyn girl, and he's 12. She's 20, but still, he's like, ooh, pretty girl. So they kind of have this, like, nice little friendship. But anyway, she discovers, like, first thinks he's, like, kind of a weirdo because he's like, why isn't Starsky and Hutch on? That's my favorite show. And she's like, dude, that was canceled like 5 years ago. Like, where have you been? And he's like, I don't know. Like, I've lost 8 years of my life. She's like, were you in outer space? And he's like, maybe, because he was. So then she's like, you're a weirdo. And he's like, at least I'm not as weird as you. You have purple hair. So this is like the only part I remember is watching this as a kid. She has this like tuft of purple hair, which I thought was so cool. It was because she went to a Twisted Sister concert. And he goes, who's she? Which is Twisted Sister the band in Pee Wee's Big Adventure on the car doing the
Full
video?
circle.
Yeah.
Oh, no, wait. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I think so.
So she's really cool, but then she ends up being like his little ally. So, feels really bad for him and what they're doing to him. Basically, like trying to run all these tests and not giving his parents like any information about anything. So she's pretty cool.
Yeah. She was great.
Yeah.
Love that SJP.
I know. She's a little cutie.
Yeah, she really is. So the only strange thing about this movie is that there isn't really a bad guy in there. I mean, I
think the NASA guys.
Well, no? Right, but that's what I said. I wrote down NASA is the bad guy, but I want what they want. Like, so am I a bad guy? Like,
what do you mean, answers?
Yeah. Like they just want to know more about this spaceship and where he was and what he was doing and why he has this knowledge in his head. Like, they're not trying to hurt him.
The head of the class teacher told him that.
Told him what?
Don't you want answers, David?
Oh, yeah.
And we all do.
But like, and I know.
But I don't think they treated
like,
him
not
that well.
bad. Like, they're not like the E.T. villains who are like, we're gonna do scary things to E.T. and blah blah blah.
Well, I don't think they treated him that well. Number one, I don't know why they had to put him in a locked room with no doorknob and like monitor him. I mean,
for his own safety. His brain was. I mean, he's like that Scarlett Johansson movie, Lucy, where like humans usually use 10% of their brain, but Lucy uses 90% or whatever. Like, you're dangerous because you have all these things. So I don't know.
But he was only 12, and his parents weren't kept in the loop at all. That's really shady. Like, the parents should have been. Well, yeah,
but it was NASA. It wasn't like maybe they were gonna talk to the parents after this 48 hours. Like, he just found out through like hearsay from Sarah Jessica Parker that they were gonna keep him there longer. Like, you don't know. Maybe they're gonna do other things. Like, I'm just saying, it's like they're not that bad of a bad guy.
They're not bad. No.
Yeah. So it's a little like where's the conflict? So yeah, a little bit like that. My other thought at first, and I almost crossed this out, but I kept it in because I would like to talk about it, is that I was like, why does Paul Reubens need to be the voice of Max? And then when he like started talking like Pee Wee Herman, I was like, oh, okay. Because before that, it was a very generic, like anybody could have done that voice. So I was like, why did they use him? Yeah. And then I figured it out, and it was like very interesting. Like a little too much Pee Wee Herman, I think.
As a kid, like I said, that part was my favorite. I thought it was so funny, and I loved all like the weird sort of confusion that he had between like what David was saying and like the stuff he didn't understand, and like I don't know. It cracked me up when I was little. Now watching this now, I'm like not that funny. And it's all like old, corny kid jokes though. Like, see you later, alligator. Hey, fatso. Like, I don't know. It's just like,
yeah.
Like, almost the other stuff was even funnier. And, like, the big thing I remember is that he says compliance is what he said. So David's, like, the navigator. So the Max is, like, doing everything he says. And when he says, like, okay, understood, or, like, affirmative, instead he says compliance, which is such, like, a weird word you never hear. But I always thought that was really cool.
Oh. was cool. Yeah, I liked that part, but I thought it kind of went on a little too long. Maybe the spaceship part.
Yeah.
Maybe just a little bit.
But I forgot, like, the movie basically, like, goes backwards. So, like, I don't know. For some reason, I thought, like, the beginning was more of him on the ship. That was the beginning part? I don't know. I was, like, all confused. I'm like, wait, like, he's not on the spaceship yet? But he already was on the spaceship, but he, like, doesn't remember.
I'm still confused about, so when he got taken, he was gone for 8 years. Yeah. They were doing experiments. Yeah. And at that point, after the 8 years is up, he normally would have been shot back to when he began. So in
real time, he was gone for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So he should have been, right, they should have just taken him back, but Max was like, no, he's never going to be able to, like, withstand this or whatever.
Okay.
So he just was like, screw that, I'm just going to drop him off at what the real time is. And then his spaceship got stalled or whatever because he got lost because he lost all the directions and like didn't know where to go.
He crashed into the thing and then lost all the data or whatever, which is like, well, you're an alien spaceship. I think you need better technology. Just saying.
Yeah.
But yeah. Okay, now I get it. Yeah. Sometimes it hurt my head when I try to think about it, but now I think I get it. All that stuff always.
So, but then he took him back to Phelan to run the experiments?
Well, that's why I was like,
is
so
that what the 4 hour time? Yeah.
Yeah, because that was like.
And did they wipe his brain and that's why he didn't remember?
I guess.
Yeah, didn't explain that part.
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah, so, that shit always confuses me the fuck out.
Yeah, I love that stuff, but it is like total headache.
Yeah.
City.
Totally.
Total headache city. Shout out to Fort Lauderdale where this takes place. Sweetie and I went on a vacation there a couple years ago. Let's talk a little bit about that. Fort Lauderdale is cool and it looks awesome in this movie. I remember when I saw this as a kid, I'd be like, I want to live in Florida because it's palm trees. And what's cool about Fort Lauderdale, it has that intercoastal waterway. So it's like Fort Lauderdale is on the coast because there's a beach, but then there's this little like waterway where there's all these houses on either side. So there's like big boats and you just kind of go up and down it with all these like boats. I don't know. We thought it was really cool when we visited, except
did we?
There was basically a hurricane for 3 days.
No, but even without that, like it was just a very dumpy. Like maybe it was cool back in the 80s, but like it's pretty dumpy as fuck now. Like
but it was
pretty
also,
sure we
like,
passed a drive-through adult book porn place. Like weird.
We went to the giant indoor flea market, like for hours where we have nothing to do.
It was great.
So it was literally a hurricane for half of the trip. So we bought this like giant puzzle, which Sweetie just ended up doing because I always give up on like one day. I'm like, I'm good with the puzzle.
You give up on everything. You can't. This is why you don't have hobbies except for reading.
We read so many books. Like I read like 1,000-page Stephen King book. We got like margaritas in these like sippy little Capri Sun like pouches and made nachos every day. It's a pretty good vacation.
Yeah, no, it was fun. Like I want to go back now.
Yeah.
Now that I'm talking about it, I'm like, oh, remember that cool restaurant we ate on the water?
So it was a hurricane?
Yeah. No, it was the one night. It was like a nice night, so we finally went out to that nice place, and we had to use the valet. And I was like, I'm scared. I didn't know how to tip them.
Beautiful.
That was scary.
And we drove to Miami for one night. And just like went out to dinner. Yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah, it was fun. Yeah, do it again.
Florida is trashy as fuck, but is sorry if you live there, but it is really fun coming from like shitty New England. It was so warm once the sun came out. We got
we had a few days of beach pool time, but
yeah, we got. Remember though, also last story about it. I got like suckered into like we were using my mom's timeshare, and the deal with that is that they always make you like. Or they'll often try to like sucker you into going to the timeshare like explanation thing. But if you go, you get like $100 gift card or something like that. So remember the woman called and we're like, okay, like you want to go? And I'm like, sure, I'll do it. And so like we signed up for a time slot and then I was like, fuck that. I don't want to go. And then they kept calling us.
But it wasn't about that. And then they left a message and was like, it was just an automated like, here are the events for today. Like we thought it was somebody.
I so terrified though. I'm like, no, pick up the phone.
And then finally we did, and we're like, oh, never mind.
But yeah, we didn't go to that bullshit. We can't even pay for groceries. We're like, we're not buying a timeshare.
We went to Walmart like every night.
Come on, that was a fun vacation.
Yeah, we'll do it again.
But yeah, cool Fort Lauderdale. Really seemed really beautiful. They had a really cool house. I'm into it. Wish I lived in 1978 Fort Lauderdale.
Yeah, it looked cool. Boats.
Small shout out to the soundtrack of this movie by Sweety here's favorite composer,
Alan Silvestri,
who coincidentally did the one Death Becomes Her, the movie that we did last time. However, this soundtrack is all about the synth 80s beats.
How does it go again?
Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. It's like it's pretty good. It's pretty good. Yeah. And there's like I can't even do like the spooky alien like kind of music. You know what I'm talking about when they see the spaceship. Every time you saw the spaceship, it was like dee, 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 dee. I can't even do it. I can't do it.
You look
You're doing spider hands.
He looks pretty spooky just now doing it, but yeah I don't know. Also some Beach Boys.
Okay,
in
that
there.
part. Explain that part because I cracked up.
So they go to S. They're lost. The whole the main crux of this film seems to be that they cannot figure out how to get from San Francisco to get to Florida. Like you just fucking go east. Like hello,
you got a D in geography.
Well, does the computer is supposed to be very advanced, intelligent life form, and they can't figure it out. So they stop for directions in bumfuck Iowa, someplace, I don't know. And there's this red hot convertible with cool people in it. I'm like, what are they doing in this state? So they try to ask directions.
They look like greasers.
Yeah, no, they were like 80s beach bums. So they're playing a song on their car radio very loudly, and then they see the spaceship and they drive away. They're scared. Max later is like, "What was that? That was cool," and he plays the music over his speakers thing. I don't know. And David's like, "That was music. Music's cool." And he's like, and Max is like, "I would like to hear some more of that." And David's like, "Well, can you pick up radio signals?" He's like, "Can I?" So they go and he tries to find a radio signal, and he lands on the Beach Boys finally. And David gets really excited, and he goes,
First of all, why did he remember the Spanish music comes on first, and he's like, turn this off.
It wasn't Spanish, but it seemed like old lady weird organ music kind of thing. Yeah, me neither. I was like, racist?
Yeah, racist. That's what I thought. He lives in Florida. Maybe he was
yeah, I don't know. But so what does he say when the Beach Boys come on? He's like,
"Now this is music."
And he's like, nah, and he starts singing along, dancing.
This is how you dance.
And it's the Beach Boys.
Weird head movements.
What song is that? What's that song called? Get Around. I get around.
I get around. Na, 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 I get around. Da, da. I getting bug driving up and down the same old strip. I gotta find a new place where the kids are hip. Get around.
Did I do good background vocals on that?
So that's also the song in
Look Who's Talking, Sweety Alumni songs. Speaking of Sweety Alumni,
who do we got?
We got SJP from First Wives Club and Hocus Pocus.
Alumni with graduation.
Yes, I get it. I think that's our only one, right? Pee Wee Herman. Oh, sorry. And Paula Rubens, the voice of Max as Pee Wee Herman, also as Pee Wee Herman in this movie, goes by Paul Mall in this film, which is his joke, wants to, I don't know. Yeah. What's this thing?
Incognito.
I thought I heard him talking about that on a podcast one time or something. But
what? Paul Mall?
Yeah. I'll have to go back and figure it out.
Whoa.
But yes, that's our alumni.
I really like the old computers in this movie because there's a lot of them. And I feel like there was more stuff. They did just a lot of stuff with computers. I'm like, wait, they could do stuff with computers back then like that?
Yeah. Well, the navigation stuff in NASA has the ability to see that the spaceship has crossed over into Japan airspace.
Right. That was totally fishy to me.
And I was like, what?
No. And then the missing persons thing where the woman was like, "Oh, I ran it through the computer 3 times." The missing person report. Did they have computers in 86? I guess.
It's not like they didn't make this in 86. If they made this now and then made it, you know what I'm saying? It could have been anachronistic if we didn't realize it, but it was current time. So they had to have known that you could and could not do certain things on the computer.
I don't know what the technology was like in 86. I didn't feel like they had still yet computers with that sort of level of information, but I don't know. I was only 3.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been something super minor, you put in a name and it turns up a date, and then you have to go through your files to look through the different files to find it. It could, it didn't pull up a picture of him or anything. I think it was probably just raw data, and then they did the
just
rest.
makes you think like how they did any police work at all without like computers and old cases and all that stuff. Like that is, or like records, or even like, you know, IDs. Like, couldn't you just be anybody like anytime when before there was like real identification and numbers? And we were talking about the other day about old credit card machines. So remember those like you put your credit card and it was like that thing with like the carbon paper. So it really was just to make an imprint of your card so that they would have the number, and then what they would have to do is call up the credit card company and like I think put in your number to tell you that like the charge was off. Yeah,
It's pretty sure inefficient.
I know. So then if your card was like not, you know, you had no credit left on it, how would they wouldn't know. So you could pay for it and walk out with it just by giving your credit card number, right? How does that work?
I don't know. Well, they have. Hopefully, it's your credit card.
No,
So
but like, what if like you only had? Like,
then you get charged money. Like the credit card company still has to give the store money.
Yeah.
But you have to pay like an
them
insane
back.
fine.
But then was there not? Oh, you mean okay? So your limit, like maybe there wasn't like real limits then, like there is now, because they couldn't really like test that.
Right.
Okay, I getcha.
Sure.
Do you know that like ones might still work with American Express, but Dad had this one where you had to pay your whole balance every month.
What do you mean? What?
That was
who made
American
that
Express. That was like the American Express rule, and why people liked it, because they would only spend like what they could end up paying back. Kind of cool, huh?
No.
Yeah.
That's
like the green American
not the
Express.
purpose of credit cards, where I consider them free money.
Free money,
And I say, ooh, $2,000 just for me. And then I spend it. And then I go, oh, shit, I got a bill. Pay that off. Never. Such is our life.
Good talk about old American Express.
Yeah. Woo.
Those were random 80s chatter on this one.
Good times.
But yeah,
Sweet
really
flick.
happy we did this one.
Yeah.
Glad we got out of the way. I know you were like not into it because you hadn't seen it yet.
That was about wheelchairs. I'm
yeah.
sorry.
And you didn't. That wouldn't have been an interesting movie.
No, I said I apologize that I thought that. I just didn't know what it was about. So I was like, is it about a kid in a wheelchair? Because I don't know what that's about. And most of all, just keep listening. Keep being awesome. Keep being in the Sweety Club.
What are we doing next?
What are we doing next? I don't know. Clueless?
Whoa.